Hello and welcome to yet another video on the Twofold channel. This right here is a brand new Porsche Taycan 4S. It's all electric, and as all things go on this channel, I'll be telling you all about the looks on this car over here, comparing it with the outgoing model. Then we take it for a spin, we charge it up, and then I give you my final remarks. Without wasting any more further time, let's go. So here's the thing that I find interesting. I know South Africa is pretty much warming up to electric vehicles, but Porsche has actually moved about 150,000 units off this previous model. And that's crazy. Even with the new one, models are already, orders are coming in and it's rising. But I think first things first, let's talk about the looks on this Porsche Taycan. What you're greeted with here is very, very sleek lines on this vehicle. It's a saloon, it's super long, but you see that sweeping through just from the bonnet over here. You get that Porsche emblem up front there, striking. The lights have those four dotted sort of like signatures on them for the daytime running lights. There's about 30,000 individual pieces of just crystals that actually give you that effect that you see on the Porsche over there. And the lights in them are actually super bright. They can actually strike you up until 600 meters away. But then again, in the rest of the front, you see it's all flushed out as an EV would be, all beautiful, all closed off. The vents are there underneath for all the electrical parts, as well as on the sides here, just to allow some air intake, as well as some air to sweep through and to allow the car to literally cruise on the road. And then when we move to the side of the vehicle, you see those 20-inch wheels on this car over here. These wheels are actually 130,000 Rand option. Just these wheels, these 20-inch wheels. And then what you see on the side here is actually a charging port, but there's two of them on this vehicle. There's one on this side, which is much slower, and another one on the other side, which is a much faster charging port. Depending on where you want to charge it, of course, you'll just face it accordingly to your charger or to the port where you want to charge it up. And then moving to the rest of the side of the vehicle, you get those flash door handles, but these are not flash like the ones you find on BMWs. They actually pop up, which I actually like, and allow you to open them in sort of like the traditional way. And then just moving towards the rear, it's also a flashed rear on this vehicle, but very beautiful Porsche signature look. You get that light strip light bar at the rear, which lights up beautifully at night. Unfortunately, on this vehicle, that Porsche sort of like lettering at the back doesn't light up. It's an option actually, which you'll pay a few thousand rands for if you really, really want it. And then the rest of the vehicle on the top, you get that panoramic sunroof, which is actually just a moonroof, but it's an optional cost as well, so it doesn't come free or standard with the vehicle. And that's that from a looks perspective, I think. Let's go inside so I can show you all the tech and fun stuff in this vehicle. And here we are inside the Porsche Taycan 4S. Well, it feels like a sports car, and that's exactly what Porsche was aiming for. But before we get into the driving, we need to talk about the inside of the car overall. So what I see in front of me is this big steering wheel with this Porsche emblem right here in the center. It has these shortcuts and buttons, dials on the side for easy access to your media, to navigation, to whatever else you might need, really. It's all here, easy for the driver. And then what's interesting about this car, it might be electric, but there's driving modes here as well, where you can choose between a little bit of more of a sporty drive, a leisurely drive. It's really up to you, depending on what you want. And right in front of that is a big curved display that shows me all my instrumentals. There's also shortcuts for light settings, and also again just other shortcuts as well for raising the car a little bit. Maybe you want it higher, more comfortable ride when you're cruising at lower speeds, traction off, etc., those kind of things. It also shows you which gear you're in, and then it also shows me the range that I have in this vehicle as I'm driving. And then right to my left, I have this about 11 or 14,000 Rand clock actually in the center of the vehicle. It's quite a statement piece, if I can put it like that, that you can put into your spec, into your Porsche vehicle. Moving right underneath that is a big infotainment screen for controlling everything in the car, pretty much, to your Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as well, wireless or wired if you wish. And then there's another secondary screen underneath that which has all my shortcuts for whatever I want to control in the big infotainment screen. And then there's a menu for all my AC, doing all the temperature settings. And then underneath that is just for my seat warmers. And then there's a button for actually, working around the volume. What I don't like is that the volume rocker is not physical. You have to touch a few buttons in this car to, increase the volume and decrease it, which is not intuitive or great when, of course, you get distracted. But I mean, there's a shortcut here on the steering wheel, but also even for the passengers to be touching a touchpad isn't really, the best thing for me, in my experience. And then underneath that, you have some Taycan lettering just to remind you again which vehicle you're driving. And then you get some cup holders. First one is all good and fair, centered. Second one, I really don't understand why it feels like an afterthought, because it's sort of like sitting on its own and it's not centered. It's a me thing. If you're into design and all those things, you can see that. Then there's a big cubby over here for all your stuff. It also has some USB-C ports in there if you really want to keep your phones wired up. And then to my far left, you get there's a blank space there which sort of like has a piano, black or classic piano finishing on it. But actually you can spec out the car to have a secondary screen, which is a screen for the passenger that they can use to control their own media, the navigation, etc., and certain features like that. And then moving to the side of the car, you get this nice finishing with some carbon fiber on it, which is a spec. It's a few thousand rands in this car if you want to spec that out. And then you get these comfortable seats, again, like I said, that give you that sporty feel with a crest just on where I rest my head. But that crest comes at an optional 8,000 Rand if you want it in this car. It seems like pretty much everything is an option in this car, just to make your Porsche nice. And then you get those seats at the rear, comfortable seats for 3 people. But if you want, you can actually just have 2 seats, which makes it in total 4 people in this vehicle. So it's up to you how you want to customize your vehicle. Again, all of that comes at a price. And then at the rear, you get that big boot, which is a 407-liter boot. Pretty spacious for all your bags and everything else that you need to move around. We could comfortably fit everything that we wanted to for this shoot or for this trip, to give you this content that we wanted to do. And then I think now let's talk about driving this Porsche vehicle. Well, for me and for this channel, because it's our first Porsche vehicle and it's all electric, again, like I said, this car has that sports car feel in it. It feels like you're actually driving a Porsche. This is what I expected. I don't want to lie to you, hands down. But it also reminds me of the Audi e-tron GT. We didn't get to drive it on the channel, but I've reviewed it a few years ago. And in the sense of driving and the feel that you get from it is pretty similar. They also have a similar sort of like body shape and body style. But this is much more fun and much more sportier because it's also so low to the ground. It's about 127mm ground clearance, which makes sure that it grips to the road. And as soon as you start increasing your speed, it actually lowers itself a little bit because it can feel that you're getting a bit sporty, a bit spirited, and then it just enhances that grip. It feels amazing. It was made to be driven, and I think more than anything, it was made actually for the track. We would have loved to drive this car on the track, but hey, maybe next time. But I enjoyed this car so much. And then let's talk range and charging. In a sense of range, from this car's single charge to get to 100%, at most we got about 525 kilometers, but that's also depending on the driving style. If you're more, you are light on your foot, then I'm sure you'll get more from that, but that's the most we managed to get. And in the sense of charging, it can support up to 320 kilowatt, sort of charging speeds. We actually tried it out at the fastest EV charger in South Africa, which is just outside Wolmaranstad, between Wolmaranstad and Klerksdorp, and we managed to charge it from about 40% to 100 in about 30 minutes, if not less. And that cost, just for that charge, because it's the fastest one in the country, comes in at about 600 Rand, which is also not bad for getting 500 kilometers out of a vehicle. We know how crazy expensive petrol is, and just in comparison, you can pay about double, if not almost close to triple of that amount just to get the same range from a petrol vehicle, which I find that it's actually quite good for an EV. And that's been our experience with this car from a charging perspective. Again, I know some cars, when they give you those range figures, what you see on paper will be about, the same, about 500 or you get 600 kilometers. But when you get to drive in the car in the metal, that range drops to about 300, but not in this car. We actually got that guaranteed about 530 kilometers from this vehicle alone. So I've pretty much enjoyed that. That sort of like, surprised me a lot in a good way. And that's, my experience with this car, and also from a charging perspective. And then when it comes to pricing, well, this car is priced at about 3.2 million Rand, and that's without speccing it out to your heart's desire. And I've mentioned quite a few specs and quite a few amounts that I'm sure have blown. You sort of like you've had to blink twice there to make sure that the amounts are right. But this vehicle, when I tried speccing it out on a website, the complete price came to about 3.9 million Rand. And I'm sure it's more than that, but that's how much you sort of can expect to pay for this vehicle. There's a lot of extras in this car. Like I said, there's a crest on my headrest here, there's some finishing on the cars, even outside, just by the skirting, by the lip in front of the bumper. That alone you can expect to pay close to 200,000 Rand just to have it blacked out on this vehicle. But that's from a pricing perspective. I think next, let's close up our review and then give you my final remarks on this car. Can you believe we've actually come to the end of our time with the Porsche Taycan 4S, and I hope that you enjoyed watching this review as much as we enjoyed creating it for you. But before you go, please make sure that you are subscribed to our channel right now, and make sure that you share this video with your friends and family so that they know what you're watching. But from myself, Papi Mabele, and Mlu behind the camera, thank you so much for watching and have a good one.